Good evening. I hope everybody is doing well. Um, I'm going to speak about Lizzie Borden. Um, Lizzie Borden was born in America, and she was tried and acquitted for the murder of her dad and her stepmother. There's a lot of controversies and things that she did it, she didn't do it. So, to me personally, I don't think she did. I mean, but that's up to whoever wants to I mean, she's not here to defend herself anymore. Lizzie Andrew Borden, she was born July the 19th, 1860, June the 1st, 1927, was an American woman who was tried and acquitted on the 4th of August, 1892, the axe murders of her father and stepmother in Fall River, Massachusetts. No one else was charged in the murders, and despite optimism from other residents, Borden spent the remainder of her life in Fall River. She died of pneumonia at the age of 66, just days before the death of her older sister. I I mean, at least they did have another sister, but she died as a baby. So there was obviously three of them. But I know they didn't like the stepmom at all. It was like they could have lived for what the girls get put through. Um, was absolutely ridiculous by the dad. Um, to me, I think the uncle did it and get help with. I mean, I think Lizzie was involved, but I don't think it was not her that when she got. It was uncle, and obviously after it was done, they washed themselves, got what they had today, and then shouted for the police. Lizzie Borden, as I say, she was born Lizzie Andrew Borden, July 19th, 1860. She was born in Fall River, Massachusetts, USA, in America. Died the 1st of June 1927, aged 66, at Fall River, Massachusetts, USA. Now, she's the house that they stayed in, you can go visit. The house that she eventually bought, I've seen inside that house via Oh My Gosh and James the Farm. Oh my God, that house is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and I see why. But obviously, like she was out partying and things like that. I mean, she lived a life that she wanted to live. She should have lived because her dad was very, and not a lot of people liked her dad. So I mean, in a way, that could have been anybody that did what they did to him. The resting place is Oak Grove Cemetery. A lot of people do go and visit her grave, but remember, always, no matter what, respect cemeteries. Don't disrespect them. Other name is Lizbeth Borden. She was known for suspected homicide of her father and her stepmother. The Borden murders and trial received widespread publicity in the United States and have remained a topic in American popular culture, depicted in numerous films, theatrical productions, literary works, and folk rhymes around the Fall River area. And obviously, it's paranormal as well, because a lot of paranormal go to the house. It's a lovely home, and obviously they've done a lot of work now, like putting so you can stay in, and it's like, I think it's an Airbnb sort of type thing. So it is nice. Um, it's like the boarding house at 92 Second Street in Fall River, Massachusetts. Um, Lizzie Andrew Borden, also as I said, was born 19th of July 1860 in Fall River, Massachusetts, to Sarah Anthony Nemos, 1823 to 1863, and Andrew Jackson Borden, 1822 in 1892. She was the third child born to the couple. Ahead of Lizzie was Emma Leonore, and Alice Esther died of hydrocephalus at 22 months. As I said, they had a wee sister. She had a sister that was just a bit older and died as a baby. Because obviously childbirth and babies died at that times. Andrew Borden was of English and Welsh descent. He grew up in the very modest surroundings and struggled financially as a young man. Despite being the descendant of a wealthy and influential family, he eventually prospered in the manufacture and sale of furniture and caskets, then became a successful property developer. Hopefully that does not go off. It's because I'm not using the YouTube. If it does it again, it's got to switch it off. He was a director of several textile mills and owned considerably commercial property. He was also known president of the Union Savings Bank and the director of Duffy Safe Deposit and Trust Co. At the time of his murder, the estate was valued at 300,000. A second, let's switch it off. Try to do it well. One, they make things awkward for myself. I switch it back on. Despite his wealth, Borden was known for his frugality. The Borden residence lacked indoor plumbing, even though it was a common feature for the wealthy at the time. As I said, he could have had that on. He could have done it, but he was very, very stingy with money. And the way he brought the girls up, he wouldn't allow them to do nothing. It was ridiculous how the girls get treated and how he treated his first wife. And his second wife, and he said that everything was going to be getting left to her and not his daughters, which is like, here, hold a minute, you've got children in the family, like from them, like Lizzie, Emma, there's like Uncle Nora, they didn't like the dad. So that's why I'm saying I think there was something in me, because think about this. The maid disappeared after obviously the deaths, not long after the deaths, and she ended up buying a bit of land in Ireland. So does that not tell you something? The house stood in an affluent area, but the wealthiest residents of Fall River generally lived in the more fashionable neighbourhood called the Hill, which was further from the industrial areas of the city. Lizzie and her sister Emma had a relatively religious upbringing and attended Central Congregational Church. As a young woman, Lizzie was very involved in church activities, including teaching Sunday school to children of recent immigrants. She was involved in religious organisations such as the Christian Endeavour Society, for which she served as a secretary-treasurer, and contemporary social movements such as the Women's Christian Temperance Union. She was also a member of the Ladies' Fruit and Flower Mission. And she did do quite a lot, and the girls were abused mentally and physically by the dad. He sexually abused the daughters, but he sexually abused Lizzie more. And I think it became angry, but and he was having an affair with the maid as well, which came out. Andrew Borden married Abby Duffery Gray, 1828 to 1892, 3 years after the death of Lizzie's mother. because he wanted to make sure the girls had another mother in their life, because so Lizzie later stated that she called her stepmother Mrs. Borden and demurred on whether they had a cordial relationship. She believed that Abby had married her dad for his wealth. That's true. Bridget Sullivan was the Borden's 25-year-old live-in maid who had immigrated from Ireland, and she testified that Lizzie and Emma rarely ate meals with their parents because they didn't allow it. In May 1892, Andrew killed multiple pigeons in his barn with a hatchet, believing they carried infections and diseases. Lizzie had recently built a roost for the pigeons, and it had been commonly recounted that she was upset over his killing them, though the veracity of this has been disputed. A family argument in July 1892 prompted both sisters to take extended vacations in New Bedford. They returned to Fall River a week before the murders, and Lizzie chose to stay in a local rooming house for 4 days before returning to Borden residence. Tensions had been growing within the Borden house family in the months before the murders, especially over Andrew's gifts of real estate to various branches of Abby's family. Their stepmother's sister received a house, so Lizzie and Emma demanded a rental property, the house which they had lived in until their mother died. They purchased it from their father for $1. A few weeks before the murders, they sold the property back to their father for £5,000, which is under 70 million and whatever in 2023. John Whittaker Moss, Lizzie and Emma's maternal uncle, visited the Borden home the night before the murders, and Andrew invited him to stay for a few days to discuss business matters. This has led to speculation that the conversation may have aggravated an already tense situation, particularly about property transfer. Now, a lot of people acknowledge the fact that this is why arguments were starting, because he wasn't treating the girls the way a parent would treat the girl, his daughters or their sons, and the other side of the family, from the mum's side, didn't like that, because like, she had a big influence on the dad, that stepmom, so, and I don't think she liked the girls. The entire household had been violently ill for several days before the murders. A family friend later speculated that it was caused by mutton that had been left on the stove to use in meals over the days. Abby had feared poison, given that Andrew had not been a popular man in Fall River. He'd not, because nobody liked him. Thursday, the 4th of August 1982, obviously, you can go on, and if you look at it, it shows you Abby Borden's and where she got killed, and where the dad was fell asleep on the couch and he got killed there, and the stepmom was killed in a bed, her bed. I think it was the parents' bedroom. Moss arrived in the evening of August the 3rd and slept in the guest room that night. Andrew, Abby, Moss and Sullivan were present at breakfast the next morning, after which Andrew and Moss went to the sitting room. They chatted for nearly an hour. Moss left around 8:48 a.m. to buy a pair of oxen and visit his niece in Fall River, planning to return to the Borden home for lunch at noon. Andrew left for his morning walk sometime after 9 a.m. So everything was already pre-planned, and I kind of don't blame them if Lizzie did do it, because seemingly that she stole things for a pharmacy or one of the shops. And so there's a lot of things, but I think she done that she was trying to get attention from her dad. But it's the way, as I say, when I've watched so many people's videos on that home, and you hear the stories, and you're like, and then you hear how happy the girls were when they got the home, and it was further up, and they were more happier. But I think it's nice, and hopefully the two homes are kept for memorial on Lizzie and Emma's part, and not just because obviously the murders. One of Lizzie and Emma's regular chores was to clean the guest room, but this morning Abby went upstairs sometime between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. to make the bed. According to the forensic investigation, Abby was facing her killer at the time of the attack. She was first struck on the side of the head with a hatchet, which cut her just above the ear, causing her to turn and fall face fall face down on the floor and creating contusions on her nose and forehead. Her killer then struck her multiple times, delivering 17 more hits to the back of her head and killing her. When you see the size of Lizzie, I'm not saying she couldn't have done it, but that was definitely a man. Definitely a man. Andrew returned at around 10:30 a.m. His key failed to open the door, so he knocked. Sullivan went to unlock the door but found it jammed. She uttered a curse. She testified that she heard Lizzie laughing immediately after this. She did not see Lizzie, but stated that the laughter was coming from the top of the stairs. She was considered significant as Abby was already dead by this time, and her body would have been visible to anyone in the second floor. Lizzie later denied being upstairs and testified that her father had asked her where Abby was, to which she replied that a messenger had delivered Abby summons to visit a sick friend. Sullivan stated that she then removed Andrew's boots and helped him into his slippers before he lay down on the sofa for a nap. A detail contradicted by the crime scene photos, which show Andrew wearing boots. She testified that she was in her third floor room resting from cleaning windows just before 11:10 a.m. when she heard Lizzie call from downstairs, "Maggie, come quick, father's dead, someone come in and killed him." So there's obviously a lot of contradictions, and that's where obviously Lizzie got angry, because obviously when the police came in, but at the times the forensics and all that weren't that great. And if you do testing now, I wonder who would obviously, it's a long time ago, it's like 100 years ago. It'd be nice to find out. It's like Jack the Ripper, innit? It's like, who did it? Some people say it's a woman, some people say it's a man. Andrew was slumped on a couch in the downstairs sitting room, struck 10 or 11 times with a hatchet like weapon. One of his eyes had been split cleanly in two, suggesting that he had been asleep when attacked. His still bleeding wounds suggested a very recent attack. Family physician Dr. Bowen arrived from his home across the street and pronounced both victims dead. Detectives estimated that Andrew's death had occurred at approximately 11 a.m. Lizzie's initial answers to the police officer's questions were at times strange or contradictory. Initially she reported hearing a groan or a scraping noise or a distress call before entering the house. 2 hours later, she told police that she had heard nothing and entered the house not realising that anything was wrong. When she asked where her stepmother was, she recounted Abby's receiving a note to a note asking her to visit a sick friend. She also stated that she thought that Abby had returned and asked if someone could go upstairs and look for her. Sullivan and neighbour Mrs. Churchill, who were halfway up the stairs, their eyes level with the floor, when they looked the guest room and saw Abby lying face down on the floor. They would have seen her right away as soon as they stepped up the steps. It was very easy the way she was and she wasn't hidden. Most of the officers who interviewed Lizzie reported that they disliked her attitude. Some said that she was too calm and posed, despite her behaviour and changing alibis. She was not checked for bloodstains. Police did search her room, but it was a cursory inspection. At the trial, they admitted to not doing a proper search because Lizzie was not feeling well. They were subsequently criticised for their lack of diligence. I do not like what the prosecutor Fisker did at all, because he brought what the skills and all that and Eddie English, which obviously was Lizzie ended up collapsing, and a lot of other female when that ended up being sick and things like that. In the basement, police found 2 hatchets, 2 axes, and a hack's head with a broken handle. The hatchet head was suspected of being the murder weapon, as the break and handle appeared fresh, and the ash and dust on the head appeared to have been deliberately applied to make it look as if it had been in the basement for some time. However, none of these tools were removed from the house, and I think the tools were still in the house. They're still in the house today. The victims' stomachs were removed during autopsies and tested for poison because of the mysterious illnesses that had stricken the household before the murders, but no poison was found. Residents suspected Lizzie of purchasing hydrochloric cyanic acid in a diluted form from a local druggist, because at that time you could buy stupid things like that. Now, thankfully you can't now. Her defence was that she was inquired about using the acid to clean her furs, despite the local medical examiner's testimony that it did not have antiseptic properties. Lizzie and Emma's friend Alice Russell decided to stay with the sisters for the night following the murders. Police were stationed around the house on the night of the 4th, August the 4th, during which an officer said that he had seen Lizzie enter the cellar with Russell carrying a kerosene lamp and a slop pail. He stated that he saw both women exit the cellar, after which Lizzie returned alone. He was unable to see what she was doing, but he stated that it appeared that she was bent over the sink. On the 5th of August, Morse left Borden residence and was mobbed by hundreds of people. Police had to escort him back to the house. The following day, police conducted a more further search of the house, inspecting the sisters' clothing and confiscating the broken handled hatchet head. That evening, a police officer and the mayor visited the house, and Lizzie was informed that she was a suspect in the murders. The next morning, Russell entered the kitchen to find Lizzie tearing up her dress. She explained that she was planning to put it on the fire because it was covered in paint. It was never determined whether the dress that she had been seen wearing on the day of the murders. Lizzie appeared at the inquest hearing on August the 8th. The court refused to request to have her family attorney present, citing a state statute providing that an inquest must be held in private. She had been prescribed regular doses of morphine to calm her nerves, and it was possible that her testimony was affected by this. Well, if you're given things like that, then it is going to affect you a lot. Her behaviour was erratic and she was often refused to answer a question, even if the answer would be beneficial to her. So just kind of, they were wanting her convicted. She was often contradicted. She often contradicted herself and provided um, alternating accounts of the morning in question, such as saying that she was in the kitchen reading a magazine when her father arrived home, then saying that she was in the dining room doing some ironing, and then saying that she was coming down from the stairs. On 11th of August, Lizzie was served with a warrant of arrest and jailed. The inquest testimony, the bias for the modern debate regarding Lizzie's guilt or innocence, was later ruled inadmissible at her trial in June 1893. Contemporary newspaper articles noted that Lizzie possessed a stolid demeanour and bit her lips, flustered, and bent toward attorney Adams. It was also reported that the testimony provided in the inquest had caused a change of opinion among her friends, who have heretofore strongly maintained her innocence. The inquest received significant press attention nationwide, including a 3-page article in the Boston Globe. A grand jury began hearing evidence on November the 7th, and Borden was indicted on December the 2nd. What I'll do is I'll leave it there and we'll go back to it, because I actually quite like this, because I've watched so many videos of Lizzie Borden, and as I said, I don't think she did it, but I think her who did it. But then, what do you think? So I'll send it in love and light, and good night.